Welcome to Pivotal Moments HQ. On this podcast, we share guidance and tips on how you can live an empowered life.
Every choice you make is a pivotal moment and serves as a catalyst to living with intention, purpose, and meaning.
It's never too late to start living your life and you're right on time. I'm Siria, a mindset coach, attorney, and mental health advocate.
I'm Melissa Robaina, a world leader in appreciative inquiry and strength-based leadership. This is Pivotal Moments HQ.
Right, on this episode, we are going to observe Endometriosis Awareness Month by talking about taboo topics that the endo community doesn't talk about. And so I actually posted this question on various online forums about what topics in the endo community do we not discuss? And out of the huge laundry list of items that surfaced, the topic that kept coming up or kept surfacing was endometriosis and transgender. And, I was like, I found that to be so interesting. And maybe the reason why I hadn't really even thought about it before is because, I have a wonderful resource, my brother, to just turn to if I have questions. But I realize, I'm one of the lucky ones, right? But there are so many people that had questions about various components about what it is to not only have endo, but also to be transgender. So I threw it out online, got wonderful responses. Then once we kind of decided, okay, let's really explore this topic further, I asked questions again online, specifically, what is it about endo and transgender that you want to know? And boy, did Reddit come through, I have to say. So
thank you, Reddit.
Yes, thank you, Reddit. I was like, what a better person to bring on than Megan Robaina, my brother, a trans man. And yeah, at this point, this is the third time he'll be on the show, but he's just a recurring guest. At some point we'll have to pay him. I guess that's once after we pay ourselves.
There you go.
So Megan, thank you again for agreeing to be on our show and being open and willing to talk about your journey, specifically where it comes to endo.
Thank you for having me. Honestly, the first thing I wanted to do was address the people of Reddit, the non-binary people, the trans people, the cis people, everybody that came to me. I took it very seriously. I wrote notes. I sat with it. I discussed it with my partner, who's also non-binary. And I just wanted to say thank you for being so candid and so open, and to let me address and hold the pain and the discrimination that you must face. I really thank you for connecting with me. I didn't think anybody cared, but now I know people want to know me a little bit better. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much for that. So I'm going to start off, because we got so many questions, I think City and I would like to hold this space as a safe space for us to be able to ask questions. And again, Megan, I know off air, we talked about if there's a question or a topic that you aren't comfortable talking about it, that's completely okay. Nothing has to be, anything can be. So the first question, this Reddit user asked to remain anonymous, but their question was, as a non-binary person with endo, I struggle a lot with dysphoria that stems from my endo symptoms. I have debilitating breast pain for 2+ weeks between ovulation and menstruation, and it's hard not to hate my body for that. I imagine a lot of cis women also struggle with feeling hatred towards certain body parts due to endometriosis symptoms. As a non-binary who does not want to medically transition, I've worked hard to accept that my body is a trans body already, but it's hard to accept a body that causes you so much pain and distress all the time. I wonder if Megan would like to speak on how to navigate and even differentiate gender dysphoria and illness dysphoria.
I first want to just affirm this person that what you're feeling makes all the sense in the world. I think it's a really, really difficult process to try and affirm yourself that you are trans with having the scope of what trans means be so limited. I'm a transsexual man. I've decided to medically transcend my sexual organs. But transgender just means you have transcended what gender means in the binary sense. So if you are non-binary, if you are anything on the gender spectrum, you are transgender. And so if you are someone who does not want to medically, transsexually change, you are still a transgender person, and your identity and who you are is totally affirmed. I hear you. I think what I should start with is what dysphoria means to me. And I think that would be good for any cis person to hear, because I think this is the main thing that people distort or misinterpret or define incorrectly, at least for me. I don't think that the trans experience is inherently painful. I don't think that it is inherently painful to come to self-identity, to come to self-actualization, to know who you are. I don't think that that is necessarily painful within itself. I think that is a normal human coming to age of experience. I think we all have those things, the shedding of skin, the understanding of self, maybe uncomfortable, but in the end, it's more positive than it is negative. I think dysphoria comes from the way that you are treated because of who you are, the stigma of what it means to be transgender, how hard it is to get the care that you need, how difficult it is to receive respect, and for it to just be normalized. Why, like anybody in their coming of age, we should normalize these things. This happens. This is a human experience of someone coming to identity, and it shouldn't be painful or hard or stigmatized or discriminated against or scrutinized, anything like that. So that's what I think dysphoria is. I don't think dysphoria necessarily comes from hating the way one looks. If I could easily get the care that I needed to actualize the life that I wanted to live, it wouldn't be such a painful experience. I wouldn't experience dysphoria. I still do experience dysphoria in many ways when I'm not, representing myself the way that I wish I could, but it is not, I don't think, inherently within the person. I don't think that I have a mental illness because I feel dysphoric for living as a trans man in an extremely patriarchal, sexist, discriminatory society. I think that's what dysphoria means to me. So I think it would, how do I tell the difference? I think that going and talking to people with chronic pain really helped, because they would say things that I've said to myself and thought in my most like intimate pain stricken moments, that God, I hate this. This makes life so unworth living, or, all of these different really negative energies I heard them have, and it kind of helped me differentiate that a bit. But I think where it mainly comes from, speaking to this person specifically, is that you have to understand that they're interconnected. They are like not individual separate things. They interact with one another. So I would say reach out to chronic pain groups, and don't realize that it's not from within you that you hate this. This is normal to hate a process that hurts you, that puts you in pain, that doesn't see you or value you. That makes sense.
Thank you so much, Megan, for that. That was, as always, so insightful. You are just such a well-spoken young man. So this one is actually one of many questions that we got from this Reddit user, Submerged TT, I think is how you say it, which is, do you get any solace, camaraderie, advice from online endo groups, or are they too cis focused to be much help? And I would ask that just in general as well. It's for the online communities.
Well, I would say, is it too cis focused? Always. I think there's never enough. You can never have too much queer representation in those spaces. But I think that they serve their purpose in identification and what to do when you have endo, like what types of treatments to seek out and what types of things to say or do when handling doctors and things like that, which is helpful in the medical sense, but it is not speaking to the pain of a non-binary or a cis person, how reproductive organs would hold a lot of angst or hurt or pain. So I would say use them for what they're worth. I think, yes, they're too cis focused, but they can help you navigate. Do I have endo? Is this what it is? Is when I feel these pains, is this indicative of endo and these things will happen later? How can I manage my life? And then chronic pain groups, I feel are really good for how do I deal with this in the everyday? How do I deal with feeling like life isn't worth living, or I'm super isolated and alone? So I think, yes, they are pretty cis focused. So queer spaces are always awesome for those types of conversations. But yeah, so a little bit of yes and no.
Just a quick follow-up on that. Are there any online support groups that you would recommend to those looking for, and if you can't think of off the top of your head, that's fine. I was just curious if there was a particular group that you were like, this one's a good one for advocacy.
I can't remember his name, but he's on Instagram. I know that he has a lot of they have a lot of other platforms. Their name is like Alec Amon, and they're incredible with non-binary and transgender education. I actually know a few people that are friends with them here in Seattle. But they're a huge public figure. They write books. They do public speaking. They are, I mean, let me try to find this.
Well, it's okay. Well, because I'll get that from you, and we'll make sure to put it in the show notes for anybody that would like to check out this person's Instagram. Another question, or a question from Reddit user Outrageous C5253, is curious to know if and or how endo and the pain caused by it and the treatment required affected you in terms of gender dysphoria.
So absolutely. If what dysphoria means is like the way that I hold the pain of being discriminated against and treated like poorly for my identity, then yes, absolutely. Dealing with the medical community. I mean, from my first podcast with you guys, the way that the discrimination I faced just getting a medical letter for testosterone. So yes, I have dealt. It does exacerbate dysphoria knowing I'm going into a space that doesn't see me, that doesn't hold space for me, that doesn't treat me like I'm any different than a woman.
With that said, are you comfortable telling people that you have endo?
Yeah, so as of now, and I don't mean to put anybody down for the way that they hold themselves in society. Me personally, I have chosen now in my life, it is safe and I'm able to represent the trans community in all the things that I do, in my job, in my friendships, in my close relationships, anything. So I am very open about it. I am a trans man, so I have a uterus. What I used to have and what I was afflicted with was endometriosis, and here are the repercussions of it. So does that put me at risk? Yes. This is just the way that I've chosen to live my life, knowing that like I can represent it and I feel safe enough to do so. So that is what I've chosen to do. Yes, I feel comfortable telling people. Does it matter? One of the questions was, does it matter if I've knew them pre-transition? No. This information for me is almost like testing the waters with people. Also why I haven't changed my name. I am openly who I am. And there's no real place for discrimination here. So I'm going to be open. And if you show some type of discrimination, it's just out of my life. But I understand why people would be very afraid to do so. And I understand that there are safety factors and a lot of risks involved.
It kind of leads into this next question by Reddit user Maxwell Carolina. They wrote, I'm also trans man with chronic pelvic pain, probably endo, and was wondering how Megan's gender identity affected his care. I'm not out to my gyno and I don't want to make getting care even harder.
Right. Okay. So for me, I didn't come out as like a trans man until like in the middle of my endo experience. So I was already in the process of an OBGYN. But what I would say to this person, my advice is get a trans specialist primary care. I have not seen an OBGYN in a while, but I've gotten a pap smear and I've gotten different things that I needed from my primary care doctor. If I needed to be referred out to get something else, they could refer me to an OBGYN that they know is aware of trans issues and like the trans needs. So I would definitely recommend, if you don't feel comfortable with your OBG, I don't know what it is like if you're in Carolina, or if that's just the name of it. But if you're in a place where it is not safe, stay safe. Queer rule number one, stay safe. But if you feel like you're not getting the care that you need, try going to a trans focused primary care doctor instead of an OBGYN, and they can give you most of the services or guide you in a direction of somebody better.
This is an ignorant question, but I'm so thankful that you're willing to be open to any question I ask. But what differentiates like a trans specialist? What is it? What additional care or service do they provide than primary care physicians?
They educate themselves. That's a big one. Simply going to conferences, meeting with other trans specialists, realizing that the care is different. The care is different. I need different things than a cis woman would, than a cis man would. It's just the bodies are different. We need different care. And so to have a doctor, I mean, it's coming down to someone asking your pronouns, to treating you with respect, to saying, is it okay if I unbutton this? Is it okay if I pull this down? I'm going to touch here. Is that all right? Not assuming that like this part of my body I'm extremely comfortable with, assuming that it would make more sense if you're not super comfortable with these parts of your body. So let me treat you as if that might be a problem. Very, just simple ideas of care that I think come through like education and empathy.
That makes a lot of sense. So I'm wondering though, since, we've been talking about the physicians and we've been talking about the care, I want to go more physical with you and understand, did the hormone treatment as you transitioned, did that impact your endo symptoms or reduce them at all?
Absolutely. So I have a cellular molecular background. I have a minor in chemistry. This is like the body pathways are kind of my thing. So I'm going to try and like break it down. Androgens are steroid hormones. You have estrogen, you have testosterone, you have other ones as well, but they regulate themselves by, everybody has testosterone and estrogen in their body. You regulate them at certain levels. When you get too high of one, it actually converts into the other and lowers your levels. And so as I was having too much estrogen in my body, because these cells weren't sloughing off and leaving, they were actually remaining within inside my body. I had high levels of estrogen and high levels of progesterone, which affected my levels of testosterone. So I was watching people who had transitioned after me have beards, have, the skin, have hair, have the body shape. And I was so slow because of this, which really did affect me. And I think that's one thing that I wish that was a bigger thing, that trans people if you have endo, you will be slow in your transition no matter what, because this is your hormones trying to regulate themselves out over months. So yeah, I had to be on several birth controls before I was even able to get my laparoscopic surgery. Those exacerbated the symptoms, made them a lot worse. And then once I started to transition, it would affect my testosterone levels. So I would have levels where I felt really energetically great. And then I had levels where I felt like I'm so tired. So it was very difficult in that I wasn't seeing any physical manifestations. I was still having pain, and I didn't actually stop birth control until about a year ago.
I know birth control is like their go all be all for endo treatment, because I know that they tried to push that on me and I was like, nah, that's okay. I'm curious because I remember you and I had conversations about how frustrated you were about how slow the transition was going. But now that you've stopped birth control, do the endo pains change post-transition? And if so, how?
Yes, they do. So after I stopped taking this birth control, and I stopped taking them because I felt my hormones had balanced themselves out to where each week felt very measured, and I wasn't up and down anymore. So I decided I'm going to stop taking this birth control. I did stop having pain about a year before I stopped birth control, but I feel like that was once the endo was completely gone. I personally feel that it was the sterility and eventually the inoperation of my uterus as a whole that stopped the pain. The only time pre-transition that I had ever had been alleviated from pain was when I was on birth control that was equivalent to the Depo-Vero shot where you don't have a period. That was the only time that I ever felt alleviation from the pain. And they almost threatened to not act, like you can only be on it for 6 months because reproduction, it could make you sterile. I was in excruciating pain without it. Didn't fucking care. Needed it refilled. And I had to go jump through all these hoops to get it refilled again so that I could just like have another 6 months of not being in excruciating pain. Yeah, so sterility, honestly, the whole thing not working is the only thing that I feel actually stopped the pain, unfortunately.
Is there anything else that you wanted to add before we go into the last question that you feel personally like is maybe something you would like to share about endo and transgender that maybe wasn't asked by Reddit?
I guess I'll just say that it was the most painful thing I have ever experienced in my life. It was the most isolating, the most pessimistic, the most just dystopic time. I don't know how people do it for the rest of their lives. I think seeking chronic pain groups was the only thing that gave me any solace. I just want to like say that I know that what these people are going through is so fucking painful, and to have doctors not care and to have them in fact treat me. I mean, I was poked and prodded in so many different ways. I wasn't able to be diagnosed with endo for 2 years because I was a virgin. I did not want to be penetrated. And the only way that they could find it is through a video camera that was that big around. And so when you have endo, it's already painful to be penetrated, let alone someone who's like never been penetrated before. And they did it, and it was so painful that I had to have them stop. And they were like frustrated and mad with me, as if I wasn't like in debilitating pain trying to get help. So I feel really, really strongly about this topic. I want people from Reddit to feel like they can reach out to me. So if you guys want to put like my Instagram handle on there, if people want me to make a Twitter, I'll make a Twitter. I don't care. I feel like I really want to reach out and say thank you, because just having me think about dysphoria has been something I haven't thought about in a long time, and just makes me feel like I connect back with the trans community again. So thank you.
So this one, I really like this last question submitted by Reddit user eye contact is hard, which by the way, I absolutely love that user handle. Because it's asking about the ideal future. And they wrote, I would love to hear about what kinds of changes to care Megan dreams of and what his ideal endometriosis healthcare experience would look like. I personally didn't realize how affirming it would be to be asked my pronouns in advance until it happened.
Agreed. I remember the first time I was in a college class and the professor said, my pronouns are she, her. And it was just like, wow, it was so easy to make it an inclusive, awesome space. Thanks. I have 3 words written down for this one: choice, options, and urgency. I think choice because I was young when I had endo. I think I was like 17 to 19 at the time. And my sister had endometriosis. My mother had endometriosis. It's an incredibly genetic, we know, linked phenomenon. I had all of the symptoms. I advocated for myself, but was not able to get a hysterectomy, which would have actually stopped my symptoms, because of the chance that I may possibly want to have children in the future. When now knowing the only time that I didn't have pain was when I didn't have a period, I know having a hysterectomy, I would have not had pain. So that was really big. Choice. You should have the choice. If you want to do this to your body, if you think this is the best thing to do for you, you should have the choice to do it. Reproduction should not be something regulated. That's bullshit. Options. I think that people of all people, cis, transgender people, should have options. What do you want to do? Do you want to take herbal medicine for this? Do you want birth control? Do you want exercise recommendations? Do you want this? Like, where do you fall? What is the care that you want? Not, here's birth control. This is your only option. This is all you can do. Because I know, working with herbalists, I know that there are many other options and pathways that you can take to regulate your hormones than simply birth control. I think options would be fantastic. And urgency. I don't think that people should have to be in debilitating fucking pain for forever and go through a series of tests and this laundry list of shit to be able to get the care that they need. I think urgency, this comes with it being a problem. It's a problem. It is not just cramps. It's not just menstruation. It is not just like normal women's health issues. This is a problem and it's urgent and it's debilitating. I couldn't work. I almost lost jobs. I couldn't go to school. I failed a class that I didn't need to fail, but I couldn't go because I was so sick. These are real life things. I couldn't get on disability because it's not a disability to be absolutely debilitated in pain by endometriosis. But if I had another disease that caused me debilitating pain, it would be a disability. So it's bullshit. Yeah, so the choice, options, and urgency, I think that if that would change, it's kind of hard for me to envision a world that really accepts and loves and holds queer people. But I think choice, options, and urgency in this realm would touch on that as well.
I cannot get over just how fucking brilliant you are and how amazing you are. I think I tell you all the time, I'm in constant awe of you. How you are able to say it not only articulately, but succinctly. And I can just feel like the passion and the heart and the drive that you have. And you are really a beacon in this space. And I hope that we can find more ways to help, amplify your voice and the voices of those in this marginalized community. Thank you again so much for, taking the time to talk with us about it. As always, I leave this conversation realizing how ignorant I am and am just so grateful that you're able to shed light on this.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
But she said, thank you.
This has been a really heart-opening experience, and realizing that other people want to hear this feels empowering. So to have the option and people to reach out to me, like, thank you for respecting and trusting me to hold your pain. If I haven't said something correctly, please tell me, reach out to me. I would love to actually connect with people. Thank you.
That's it for this episode. Find Pivotal Moments HQ on Instagram and TikTok for all the BTS and sister-like banter you know and love. We want to thank our music director, Ron Johnson. This has been a Pug Productions podcast.